Yeah.
Couple of recommendations there. You wish to speak, Mr. Adey?
No, just an awareness. I mean, both of them are reasonably supportive of the process we're in at the moment, understanding that we are leading towards a review of our pest management plans, but we are waiting on, at this stage, a national policy direction from central government under their Biosecurity Law Reform Act, and that is not going to come out before this election, is my understanding, and therefore don't know how long it will be, but we can hopefully expect it sometime during next year. Yep, that's fine, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Adey on this paper? Councillor Scott?
Yes, I do. And it probably doesn't really affect the annual plan, but at the time that we moved the last pest strategy, it was a short-term move because of this measure, which has gone on, and is still going on and on. Are we still sort of current with simply going with our temporary biosecurity strategy?
You agreed to set up a working party at the last Environment and Services Committee, which would go through the strategy and think of potential changes to it and make sure that those potential changes were adequately funded into the long-term plan in anticipation of a change in the future of the regional pest management strategy.
So we're looking after the next round of planning before we'll even be.
Yeah, but it's important that we've thought through the conceptual stuff and have got the funding available to do it. Yeah.
Further questions? Everyone can read and understand clearly that recommendation up there or proposed. Is someone happy to move that? There are four of them. Considers the submissions, notes the review, notes how activities are funded, etc., no change to the annual plan as it exists. You happy to move that, Councillor Scott? Thank you. Councillor Graham, you wish to speak further? No speakers. Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. And against? Carried. Thank you. Page 35, Hawke's Bay
Rescue Helicopter Trust. Yeah, there's not much to say except that we have indeed carried the 10,000 into the current budget, the proposed budget, 14-15.
So we meet their requirements.
So we've met their requirements. So this is a good news story.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Happy to move that. Councillor Belford. Thank you. Speakers.
Question. I see it's $10,000 plus GST in one line. There's $10,000 in another part. Yeah. There is a difference, isn't there?
Yes, there is. I mean, GST is deductible anyway, so it should be. For the purposes of the plan, Councillor, it's 10,000, but when it comes in, it is plus GST, which we get back.
We give them $10,000 to which they've got to deduct GST.
No, we give them 10,000 plus just.
We give them 11,500.
That's what a question on it. So
and we.
So I just want to point to if it's down here $10,000, it's inclusive of GST. So the third paragraph should be, in my view, should be 10,000 plus GST. It's in one place but not the other.
It's the figure in the plan is 10,000. All the figures in the plan, Councillor, are exclusive of GST.
Okay, just was I clear on that because it just seemed to me that change from 10,000 plus GST on point 2, and on point 3 it was $10,000. So I just thought you're chiselling them on the GST. Okay.
Fair comment. Okay, moved and seconded. You wish to speak?
I just want to point out that this is one of those community groups that is forced to trudge hand in hand to 5 councils to raise its funds. They were not singled out for that reason. They were successful, apparently, by his report in 3 of the 5 only, and I'm happy to be one of the 3.
Well, I will take a chance to speak to that as well. Waddle hasn't been considered yet. They're probably going to fail up there. The quantum from the council is actually minor for the 1.2 million that they chase each year. They chase a lot of money They got a lot of contestable funding. 1.2 million out of 2.4. They only get funded at 1.2. So, anyway, no further speakers.
I do point out that we have always funded the service as a recognition that we have a lot of field staff who could be at risk, and it was made plain to us in the public consultation yesterday that, in fact, just recently it's been called on twice for concerns related to us, so I think it's only appropriate that we continue to make sure those services are there.
Thank you. Put that motion then. All those in favour, please say aye. And against? Carried. Okay. Clive Community Group requests Mr. Adey to sort all that out for them.
Yes, with the mowing, that's the item 2 is probably the critical one here. I don't. We can continue the discussion with regard to the boardwalks, but that is quite a significant 1 capital cost and then 2 operational cost because of its depreciation. So we need to give that careful thought. In terms of the mowing, our budgets are getting tighter and tighter. We're probably well under allocated or provisioned in terms of the budget, and that's an issue that we need to bring back to you for the long-term plan, simply because we are dealing with depreciation on quite an extensive length of pathway. We do our best to keep these budgets tight. $3,000 doesn't sound much, but cumulatively we are getting really, really tight on this one. So leave it to you, really.
Can I ask a question though?
Yeah.
In our on this particular issue, Hastings District Council, Hawke's Bay Regional Council, shoulder to shoulder to the grindstone on this. Surely their expertise is in mowing. Our expertise is in other things. Is there a conversation we could have around how we as a team could fix all these issues for them?
Hastings District Council do quite a lot of our mowing already, so we have ongoing conversations with them. To be honest with you, we cannot do it for what Hastings District Council charges, so they are ridiculously low. I don't know how they do it. They must be subsidising it elsewhere, but they're not interested in this part.
Yet.
Yet. Yeah. So yeah, their charges are very low, and I don't know quite how they do the numbers, but so we get quite a substantial benefit from Hastings.
Okay, but I'll just my point is, I feel there's probably some cross deal going on here that we could exploit.
No.
Councillor Scott.
The area in question, Mr. Chairman, is in front of a number of houses, and some of them mow them personally. To what extent should we be taking that on up to a park-like condition rather than a wilderness condition?
Yep, that's fair point
Part
as
of the
well.
Conversation, yeah.
I mean, over time, that area, we have planted it, or parts of it, with fairly low-lying vegetation because we don't want to spoil the views, because that'll be a separate issue. When you get, how much that will suppress the grass, I don't know exactly the details of what they're talking about here, but happy to discuss it with the guys. Yeah.
I love the enthusiasm of this guy. I love it. They're out there to make their community better and do all these other sorts of things. And so my instinct takes me with him automatically. But on the other hand, I think, well, are we here to make everybody's piece of grass look beautiful, which to Stanley wants to? I just don't get that, really. I accept the chairman, the challenge from the chair. Let's find some innovation here. And I just ask Mike, well, if the Hastings District Council is so good and so cheap, why don't we give them all our mowing on the condition that for the price we pay, the condition they go and do the stuff for us at Clive, save us some money. I mean, why bother? I mean, we're talking about joint and shared services. Why give them the lot? Yeah. The last point I'd make is it wouldn't seem to me, if the regional council buys a lot of gear, if someone turned up with a pretty heavy industrial weed trimmer and said, look, we can't mow the thing for you, but here, we'll give you a piece of equipment, you look after it from here. they'd probably say, thank you very much, and go and do it. We wouldn't have to see them again.
First thing, just under item 1, yes, there's plenty of enthusiasm out there. They have got their capital works done, but the enthusiasm for the maintenance is not there, unfortunately. So that was a disappointment for us, that we worked with them to get that far, and then it's not working, really. In terms of handing equipment to others, unfortunately, we cannot do that without providing them all the safety gear and all the training and everything else. And again, you know, so it is frustrating, but that's the way it works.
How about we give them a grant to that amount? They don't go buy them up and bring themselves.
I think we're talking about the annual plan here. Councillor Hewitt, sorry.
I'm going to suggest that you talk to the neighbouring properties before we do anything. I have a great deal of sympathy for some people who have a sea view, and they may choose to mow in front of their property or a water view, and some may choose not to, and it's a personal choice. We've seen in the news this week a gentleman who's been fined considerably because he thought he was owed a view and interfered with plantings that weren't his right, and this is in the same vein, I would suggest. So until you have all the facts, I wouldn't be doing anything.
Happy to move status quo then, Councillor Hewitt?
I'll second.
And happy to second that. Thank you. Anyone wish to speak further?
I do.
Councillor Graham.
So the recommendation is the council considers the submission. I would like to, and that's what has been moved and seconded. I just want to add to that to keep, there was great enthusiasm from there, and I understand, there's always enthusiasm to plant trees, but there's never a lot of enthusiasm to weed them. We see that all over the place in some of the other work that I do. So, but nevertheless, to establish a good relationship from the regional council with that group, I think would be a really good endeavour, just to keep them going, because they clearly want to do a good job for their community, and we should help them as much as we can.
Certainly we do have ongoing, or staff do have ongoing relationship. Maybe the recommendation is that, they continue to work through the issue with staff. I mean, it's not a big issue. They can deal with that, yeah.
Chairman, I'd like to speak to this, because there's actually been a lot of work done down here by staff, and I really want to commend the initiative taken by some of our staff. We not only have a bike path through there, we not only have a BMX track through there, we have a horse track through there with jumpable barriers and all sorts of things. We not only have that, but we have a extensive council planting down there, which was done in conjunction with the community. And I think a lot has gone on in working with that community, and council working with that community, to get that area really working well for them as a recreational area and looking good. So I certainly commend that the staff continue to work like that, and I'd commend my fellow councillors to turn up to some of these planting days, because they're really quite good.
Just a brief comment, I guess, on this, in that councils always face a dilemma when they have open spaces that they develop, and there's always a pressure from the community, and there's pressure around the table also to have these things for the community. But the problem is that there is ongoing maintenance, and that carries on, and that's the thing that sometimes really Mr. Adey will be able to tell us more about that, but it's the ongoing maintenance of things that you put in place that can be a real drain on the finances of the organisation.
Thank you. No further speakers? Put that motion, then all those in favour please say aye. Contrary, no. Carried.